Now then, Smesh Bros MMA here as per, with that weekly blog that we're always on with. It's myself, Big Dog, joined by Jimbo Slice, KDiggy. Gentlemen, are we well today? How are we doing?
Another beautiful day.
Yeah, I don't know what it's like on your side. It's fucking freezing over here. It's horrible. So
cold, fresh air. Gotta love it.
Yeah. Oh, it's horrible, mate. Horrible. We've got a little bit to talk about today. We've got a breakdown of some of the news that's come out over the last week or so. Quick recap of last week's card with verdict picks. Very quick discussion on this week's card, which is pretty poor. Not a lot to talk about, not a lot of name value, so we'll get into them shortly. But first off, we'll get into some of the news that's been going on for the last week or so. With some breaking news breaking through the night, actually. Got woken up to the news that Yoel Romero has parted ways with the UFC. Were you as shook by this news as I was, Jimbo Slice?
To be honest, I was very, very surprised. Let's be honest, his last fight was for the title, but let's be honest. What's he going to do in this division at the moment? He's too good to put people over, and he's not good enough just to claim that title make that last bit. So I was very, very surprised that he decided to go somewhere else. Probably not get as much money. Maybe if he goes to Bellator, he might get a bit more money, might not. But I was very surprised that he'd wanted to come to the arrangement. But if he thinks I'm going to go somewhere else, claim a title, or he wants to go into a different sport, he might want to go into that bare knuckle boxing. He might want to compete in wrestling again. I don't know. Oh, mate.
You have a bang on about
Yoel Romero. He'd be a savage, mate.
The thing that was just so surprised at, and you kind of hit the nail on the head there perfectly, Jimbo. You know, he's just had a title fight. And off the top of my head, been sat thinking about it for quite a bit. In recent memory, there has been no one that has left the UFC, bar retirements, following a title fight, coming straight off a title fight, whether that be a win or a loss. There's no one that's kind of been released or gone and worked somewhere else, apart from BJ Penn years ago, of course, when he beat Matt Hughes. But, you know, for you, KDiggy, where do you want to see Yoel go from here? What do you want him to do?
He's still got the athleticism. He's still got the strength. He's still got the power to do it, even though he has lost 4 out of 5. He is 43. He's still built like a 30-year-old, and he's got the mindset for it as well. So I still think he could fight. I don't think it's one of the Anderson Silva situations where we want him to just stop completely. But he's a big personality as well, so he can. There's a few ways he can go with it. And be a success in whatever he does. So I've got high hopes for him. I think he can still carry on fighting at Bellator. Hopefully they snap him up, because I think it's a good free agent for them to get.
So I mean, I take it that's where you want him to go. And you know, really outside the UFC, is there any fights that excite you for Yoel that you'd like to see him fight out there, Jimbo Slice?
I would like to see him defeat regional champion, as Jack Slack says, him, Gegard Mousasi, and just beat him up for 5 rounds. I think it'd be quite interesting. There's a few places for him to go, but I do think the ones that scream to me is Bellator in the old man's division.
It's interesting.
The interesting thing with him, though, he's lost 4 about his last 5. But when I'm actually thinking about it, out of those 4, there's arguments to be made that he won most of them. There's an argument to be made that he probably won 3 of those 4 he lost. So he's still.
I think that's scandalous, to be quite honest with you. That's a scandalous take. That's scandalous. Costa, I'll give you that. I'll give you the Costa one. He did not win against Whitaker in that rematch. No, he didn't. It was, at best, it was a draw.
Yeah, I agree.
At best, it was a draw. There's no way he won that fight. And then Adesanya, no one won that fight. Oh, yeah, we all lost. We all lost watching that fight.
The arguments be made. I'm saying it's not like he was being dominated in these last 4. It's not like
There's an argument to be made that I could beat Stipe fucking Miocic, but it ain't going to happen, is it? You know what I mean?
There's a convincing argument to be made that he beat 3 of his last 4. I don't agree with it, but I think I can see it out there. I think he beat Costa. I think there's an argument to be made that he beat Whitaker. I don't think he did. And if you score 10-10 rounds for inactivity, you probably score it for Romero, the one with Adesanya. So I think
I'd completely forgotten about that fight, and just talking about it now, just remembering that fight is leaving a bitter taste in my mouth. Absolutely bitter taste.
I am with KDiggy here that I think the best way forward is Bellator.
I mean, I want to see him go over to Rizin, get juiced to the gills, and fight Anderson Silva. That's what I want to see. In all seriousness, I think one or Bellator. I'd like to see him go to, me and KDiggy, before you joined this web chat, we were discussing, fights that we'd love to see and fights that we'd love to happen. And one that we were both talking about was him fighting, TRT Vitor, Juice to the Gills Vitor. And, that's a fight that excites me now.
That is one, isn't it? One special.
Vitor Belfort, he signed over at 1. He's not had his debut yet. I don't want to throw accusations out there, but, I'm not sure that ONE FC's drug testing policy is as strong as that of the UFC and USADA. So I'd love to see him go to 1, and fucking that would be a great fight. Otherwise, Bellator, I think he could make a splash against Gegard Mousasi. With that, you're either going to get a really exciting fight or one that's just lackluster and very, very dull. But I think he's a hot signing for anybody. He's a fan favourite. He's one that people love. And all I'd say, obviously, he's joined the game quite late. When you look back, KDiggy, at the fighters of the past, if there was one fight that you'd like to have seen Yoel Romero partake in the UFC, what fight would that be, aside from VTRTR?
I'm going to go a little bit different here and go in the light heavyweight division. And I think a fight between Romero and Chuck Liddell would be I think just everything about that fight would be absolute fireworks. So I think that would be my dream matchup for Romero there.
Jimbo?
I did have a few in my head until I was going to go with some sensible ones. Like I said, I really wanted to see that Jacare rematch that got cancelled a few times. But if we're going out there, we're going like, really, who do we want him to see with? I'd have wanted Yoel Romero to have moved up to light heavyweight and gone for that title. And there's the Michael Bisping fight in middleweight that was always promised but never happened. But I'd have liked to see Yoel Romero take on John Jones.
Yeah, I mean, you think that's an out there claim. Before you joined, as I said, I'd love to have seen him fight Brock Lesnar in a catch fight or an open weight fight. I think that'd have been a good laugh. Just have Yoel not have to cut any weight and it'd be a heavyweight fight, him weighing about 220 and then Brock 265. That'd have been a joyous fight. That'd have been a great one. But, as we've already discussed with, USADA drug testing, the next story to break this week, Yair Rodriguez suspended for 6 months as he has failed to let USADA know where he is on 3 separate occasions. So he's been suspended for ducking tests. First he ducks Sabit, now he ducks USADA. What is the left for Yair to duck, Jimbo Slice?
Oh, well, there's left for him to duck is the Jeremy Stephens rematch when he got pounded into an arguable 10-8 round in the last one. But to be honest, I think Yair, he doesn't have that, as I've seen it described this week, that champion mindset. He has the skills to do it, but he doesn't have the ethic, the work ethic, the mindset to be champion. And I think that seems to be his biggest issue. He's an exciting fighter to watch, and he's just wasting the prime of his career. And as you shared in the WhatsApp chat, he's a bit of the old John Cena, you can't see me to USADA. Disappeared.
The man's a fucking clown. Like, let's not beat around the bush. First, he refuses to fight Zabit and gets released. Then he decides to hide from USADA and gets suspended for 6 months. I mean, Do you think he's got a place at the top of the featherweight division when he returns, KDiggy? Where does he go from here?
I think 2 years ago, he would have had a big shot to win that featherweight championship. I think he could have made his way up after the zombie fight, after that crazy knockout, and solidified himself as a top contender. But now that featherweight division is just growing and growing in strength, and I can't see.
He's full of killers.
I can't see Yair being in the top 3 of that, top 4 even. Maybe I think he'd be 5th. But with Volk, Holloway, Ortega, the zombie was beating him in that fight. There's got so much firepower in that division now that I think he'd have to move somewhere. He'd have to go down if he wanted a chance. But I think that would be a horrible cut for him going to bantamweight.
Yeah. He'd definitely be more akin to the lightweight, but then he wouldn't be big enough for that. I mean, the thing for me with Yair, he's never been the same since he got that beat down from my highly touted pound-for-pound pick for next year, Frankie Edgar. When he absolutely pulverised him for 2 rounds on the ground, he's never recovered from that. And I think, what you were talking about there, Jimbo, with that champion mindset, I think that loss really shook him as a competitor and as a challenger for that title. It made him scared, and I don't think he wants to fight anymore, to be quite honest with you. If he wanted to fight, he'd have fought Zabit when he was originally scheduled to, and he wouldn't have ducked from USADA. By all accounts, it's very easy to let them know. There's an app that you register where you are and things like that. And for it to happen once or twice, yeah, fair cop. But 3 times in the space of 6 months, you're either a fucking clown and a fool, or you're juicing.
He's part of the Mexican cartel, and he's got other shit.
Yeah. That Frankie Edgar fight, it shows the 2 different mindsets between the 2 fighters. Frankie Edgar, training for that fight, he went back to high school wrestling school and got humiliated on the mats training with these people. But he knew if he put himself through that humiliation with them to train that skill up, he knew he'd use to beat this person. And Zabit went in, I thought, I'll throw some flashy kicks. And really, the 2 different mindsets were shown in that fight. And Frankie Edgar has been champion. He's fought for many championships.
Future champion as well. Future champion.
Is he still fighting, Edgar?
Pound for pound next year, mate. It's going to be in the top 10 pound for pound.
Kev Holland next week will show us how that's going to go.
So, yeah, speaking of Kevin Holland, was meant to be fighting Jack Manson this week. Obviously, he's pulled out. He's fighting Jacare next week instead. And Marvin Vettori's been upped to the main event. We won't touch on that because we're going to break the fight down in a little bit. But another change in main events for, December the 19th. Leon Edwards has copped for COVID, apparently got it quite severely, losing 12 pounds in the space of a few days. And Stephen Thompson, Jeff Neal has now been promoted to the main event. Is that a fight that excites you, KDiggy?
The Thompson-Neal one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Any fight with Stephen Thompson, he gets the juices going for me. He's just his style is my favorite style to watch in the whole of the UFC, and he's always a nice fella to watch and follow. So yeah, I am a big fan of Stephen Thompson, and Jeff Neal's a definitely a worthy competitor who's coming up against him.
He's a killer,
and
absolute killer.
It's a very exciting fight, and hopefully 5 rounds so it can go into Thompson's favour. Who's been and done that.
I mean, that was gonna be my next question for Jimbo Slice. Obviously, it was meant to be a 3-round fight. Thompson, and it's now 5. Thompson has an experience of the 5-rounders. Neal, not in the UFC whatsoever. Do you think them extra 2 rounds are going to play a part in the fight, Jimbo Slice?
I always think you never know about what 5 rounds are like until you've been there and done it. We know that Thompson can do it, and because of that, I'll always go against the person who has not entered the 5-round club yet, and Neal has not in the UFC at all. I do think, as Jeff Neal said this week, this is a fight for who is the best striker in the welterweight division, and I think whoever wins this proves himself to be the best striker in the welterweight division. With number 3 being the Vicente Number 3 being the Vicente Luque. But I do think it probably will, because the 5-round fights that Thompson's been in, the big one that stands out to me is the first Tyron Woodley fight, which would have been so exhausting. There was near submissions, there was knockdowns, I believe. It must have been exhausting.
Love
and he
that.
did it, and he got through, and he showed himself that he's championship quality. And we haven't seen that from Neil yet. I'm not saying that Neil isn't. I think he might be. But I'm going to go at the moment with Thompson.
Yeah, I think the only way it's going to make a difference is if the fight is playing into Thompson's favour. If the fight goes as Jeff Neal's going to want it to go, it's going to be over in the first round. So it's just a question of, does Jeff Neal stick to the game plan, go, get in Thompson's face and risk tiring himself out, in them later rounds, or does he have a bit more of a composed game plan where he works back and he fights, tactically and technically, as opposed to, being that killer knockout artist that he has been and known for. The other thing that I think people are neglecting as well is that neither man has fought in over a year. By the time this fight happens, it'll be well over a year, and I think that could possibly play a part as well in the fight. Final bit of news, bit more of the females. Clarissa Shields, 2-time boxing Olympian and also undefeated as a champion, is signed for PFL. Going to be coming over and working on an MMA game, hopefully fighting Kayla Harrison. What do you make of the fight? Clarissa Shields, Kayla Harrison, Jimbo Slice.
Well, I was quite surprised actually when Clarissa Shields signed for PFL, because you don't want a part of Harrison at the moment. Harrison's got that much more experience as the grappler, and when you don't have as much experience against a grappler, you don't want to go up against someone who's an Olympic level athlete like that. When you're not fully confident in your skill as a grappler, you don't want to do that. So I don't think it'll be an instant. I don't think it's going to be an instant Kayla Harrison versus Clarissa Shields fight. I think it might be a few. We'll build to it. We'll build to it if you're PFL. And I think
it's going to be interesting. I mean, it's a compelling matchup down the line. But like you say, she's coming over to MMA, no real ground game experience. Do you think this is going to have shades of James Toney making a splash in the UFC, KDiggy, when she eventually comes over?
Potentially could be another embarrassment for boxing, but hopefully it'll be it can just be a bit more. They can just realize what's happened before, and you can't throw these guys who are boxing into the MMA world right away. It just doesn't work. These MMA fighters are just warriors, and I think if she does take her down, she'll be on her back all day. So I think it's just take your time, get some good training partners, get in there, see what the octagon's like, and then down the line, that's when you get your opportunity if you've done the right things before.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because she hasn't fought in almost a year. She last fought kind of back into February earlier this year, Clarissa Shields, and you've got to wonder, obviously, with pandemic, everything that's been going on, has she been training? And if so, has she been sticking predominantly to a boxing, or has she been working on a ground game and, refining those skills there early doors? It's something that's been teased for quite a while, coming over. So I'm excited to see what happens, her making the crossover. I think she could make a splash, or it could be a belly flop very quickly, but we'll find out soon enough. No other real news comes to mind other than Anderson Silva, rejected by ONE, rejected by Bellator, rejected by bare knuckle boxing. Rizin, however, fancy a dip, they fancy a dabble on the Silva game, so we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Last week's card, we'll very quickly touch on that. Kind of went as expected, really. Some decent results, some decent finishes, but nothing to write home about, what it, gents?
It had its
not
moments.
really. The sorry, I was saying nothing amazing. The Parker Porter fight was a bit surprising. Some people thought, we all thought, I believe, that Josh Parisian was going to go out there and dominate him, but it was a very exciting fight, worth a watch. But we all were one of the few people on the verdict who predicted the submission victory by Anthony Smith.
Yeah.
And to be honest, he made Devin Clark look foolish.
It would have given that he were going to submit him. I don't know why anybody went against it. As you said, very, very small number going for that on the verdict. And speaking of the verdict, bit of a closer game this week. Myself coming out on top, KDiggy, and then the usual suspect in last in Jimbo Slice. What are you going to do to bounce back here, Jimbo? 2 weeks on the trot. You've been at the bottom.
I'm trying to go big this week, but I also don't want to go against the grain and come bottom again. But you know what? I think I'll go big or go home on this.
Yeah, and
this
just whilst we're talking about the last week's card, Anthony Smith coming out of a big victory, implementing himself back into that top 15, getting a needed win to get that weight off his shoulders. Who do you want him to see? Who do you want to see him fight next, KDiggy?
There's a few options that he can go to. I have my usual suspects. I'm thinking in the heavyweights. I'm not too sure. It seems like he has fought everyone and anyone. So sort of any big ones coming through.
Just having a quick check of the rankings now.
Yeah,
have a quick
look.
nosy.
But I think it's just one of those. I think he just needs to get a few more wins under his belt and just beat some up and comers, and then see how he ends up at the end of the year. And he might make another splash at the title with John Jones not being there. He won't be as shaky.
Just having a quick nosy now. The fights that really jump out to me for him, there's two. Johnny Walker, the UFC brass still quite hot on him. Could be a good fight. Could be an interesting fight. You've got that wild striker coming in against, a fighter that's got a reasonably rounded game. And then I also think, another fighter that the brass is quite hot on at the minute, needs that big win to get him to that next level. Magomed Ankalaev, I think, could be a great fight for him. Jimbo, have you got anything that you'd like to add for this segment?
I've thought about the man that Anthony Smith talked about himself, who he thinks he might want to feel confident fighting next. And I think it would be a good fight on the ground. Paul Craig.
Yes.
I think it's a good fight. Gets Craig to that next level should he get the win. It'd be interesting to see what they want to go for with the brass. But Anthony Smith, he's game to fight anyone. He doesn't care. He's got that old school mentality of anytime, anywhere, any place. He don't care. All he wants to do is get involved in a bit of violence, and all credit to the man. Great man, great fighter. Just happy to see him get the win. Rachel Ostovich.
One more from me. If the Smesh Bros say that if we're all saying the same thing, that something's going to happen, it's probably going to happen. 14% of verdicts users predicted that it was going to be an Anthony Smith submission. All three of us were there. We said second round, but it was too easy for Anthony Smith.
Too easy. Just other kind of results of note. Me and KDiggy, Bill Algeo said that we said he'd beat Spike Carlisle, and he did quite convincingly, 30-27 across the board. Bit of a surprising one. I didn't expect Luke Sanders to lose. Obviously, coming off his last victory against Henan Barrow, it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. And the real disappointing loss for me was Rachel Ostovich. A lot of time for her, and to lose in the manner that she did, you've got to think that it's curtain call for her career in the UFC now. I've thoroughly enjoyed the memes that have been flying around this week, though, after she's lost, about OnlyFans. They've been absolutely fantastic. So we'll touch on this week's card. Do you know what? I was slagging it off at the start. There's some pretty good names on this card, actually. Jean Vellante coming back, fighting at heavyweight against Jake Collier. Hopefully, we get a different Jean Vellante turning up to that of the one that fought Maurice Green. Yeah, it's a good. I like Jean Vellante. I've got a lot of time for the man. I just hope that he does well, and that's a really good fight for him. We got Matt Wyman coming back. Really good fight, to break out the main the preliminaries to the main, and Luis Smolka against Jose Alberto Quinones, rescheduled after I think Smolka lost weight. So that's a really good fight. In terms of deep, there's actually some pretty good fights on this card. on them prelims. It just makes you wonder why they've gone with the fights that they have for the main card, to be quite honest with you. But we'll pull the picks up. We'll keep it short and sweet. First fight on here is Movsar Evloev against Nate Landwehr. Talk me through your pick, Jimbo.
I have actually gone with. I've gone with. I believe he's the underdog on verdict. I've gone with good old Nate. I've gone with good old Nate. Really, because I need that experience. Need to bounce back. But also, I think it's a bit more competitive. I don't know why, to be honest. I'm looking at this card. You're right. Why this is on the main card, and I'd put the Lewis Smolka fight on the opening of the main card myself.
Yeah, I think this geezer, from just having a quick check now, he's undefeated. Quite a big guy, M1 champion. So he's got that quality, that caliber behind him. I think there's a lot of hype about him as a fighter. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go. And I think that's why they've been putting him on the main card, because he's got that potential to be of quality.
But Nate seems to have he's a lot more experienced, isn't he? Let's be honest. Well, he might not be a lot more, but he feels like he's had a lot more high level experience. He's been fought twice in the UFC now.
Nate.
Yeah, I think he. I remember he lost to Gilbert's brother. He lost to Herbert.
He beat
and I think he had a good. Oh yes, he had a great fight with Darren Elkins. It was was it earlier this year. That was that.
It was in May. They fought, from memory,
on my birthday.
Yeah. So he's got the shining lights. He's got used to the shining lights and a bit of the weekend, we'd say. So I've gone with Nate, to be honest.
I had gone with Nate when I did these picks earlier on in the week, but after doing a little bit of reading, a little bit more research, I can't go against that championship caliber in the form of Evloev. I think he's got that pedigree, he's got that quality, he's got that gas tank. Russian fighters these days are taking over the game. There's a lot of quality and pedigree coming through the ranks, and I think that's going to show in this fight. I think it's going to be a decision. I don't think he's going to finish him, but I think that this is a fight that's been made for Evloev to make, as a bit of a showcase bout. Nate Landwehr, he's a gamer. He goes out there and he comes out hard. He likes to have a scrap, but I don't think that caliber, that tenacity that it shows is going to be enough to get the win over Evloev in this fight. So I've gone for an Evloev decision. KDiggy.
Yeah, bookies have gone the same. 1-5 on for Evloev. And he's got 3 wins in the UFC, 3 decisions. So I think it's 4-4. Makes sense to me. So that's where my XP is going.
Yeah. Next fight, we'll stay with you, KDiggy. We've got Roman Dolidze against John Allen Hart. Talk me through your pick.
The big Georgian, Roman Dolidze. I've got him to get the win here. He's the big favourite on verdict. He's 7-0 at the moment. I think he's the bigger man in this fight as well, coming in at 6'3", 6'4" to Josh Allen's 6'1". John Allen's. My bad. Josh Allen. Yes, so I've got Dolidze, and I've got him to. Let me just double check. I'm a little bit lost here.
I've just checked. Got him. Second round submission.
Second round submission. Correct. Thank you, Jimbo. Yes.
Jim.
Got him second round submission. I think he's going to lay on top of him and squeeze his neck.
Jimbo, talk me through it.
I too have gone with Roman. He's undefeated. He's 7-0. He's a big boy when you look at him. He's a big boy. He's a finisher. He's finished all his wins. 3 by submission, 4 by knockout. The latest few have all been by knockout, so I've gone with my knockout in the second round.
I'm sticking with you, Jimbo. Knockout second round. I think that, like you're saying, he's a natural finisher. Every fight he's been in, he's gone there, he's gone out, and he's gone for the kill. And I think this one's going to be no different. It's going to be a good fight out of the gate, I think. I think it's going to be a decent first round, but I think that, Roman's size, his strength is just going to be too much for John Allen, and it's going to be a second round knockout. So the next fight on the verdict, we've got Montana De La Rosa against Talia Santos. Again, not one that excites me too much, if I'm being quite honest. It's not one that, makes me giddy for this card. Again, don't really know why this is on the main card when you've got so many other great fights on the preliminaries. But you've got Montana De La Rosa, women's flyweight, decent fighter. She's not too bad. Coming off a loss, actually flip-flopping for the last 4 in the UFC. Just having a quick look now. Always goes the distance. Fighting Talia Santos, who's actually, I think she's a last-minute replacement, De La Rosa. So I'm going to have to check. This might change my decision, actually. I need to see when she agreed to join the fight. November 18th. I've gone with a De La Rosa decision. She's got that pedigree in the UFC. She's got that experience, and I think that's what's going to show through here. KDiggy.
I've gone the other way. So obviously with women, you need to usually go for a decision. So that's what I've gone for. I've seen Talia Santos. She looks quite strong in the weigh-ins. So, and I've had a quick look at her background as well, and I feel like she might be able to make a splash in this flyweight division. So I'm hoping for a Santos decision.
I'm just having a quick check now, actually. I'm looking at the records just to, as I say, I haven't done some proper research into this fight. Taylor Santos coming off one of the Contender Series, I'm going to assume. Oh, no, it was the original one. She's got one loss in the UFC to Amara Barella, who's not had some great results, a lot of cancelled bouts, beating Molly McCann last time. I think this is going to come down to, who can implement the game more. I'm going to stick with De La Rosa. I'm not going to change my pick. I'll stick with what I've gone for here. Jimbo Slice, what's your pick?
I do think it's a bit of a toss-up. Montana De La Rosa, for a women's fighter, is a bit of a finisher. But I've actually gone with Talia Santos. She's go by decision. She, from what I remember, when she beat Molly McCann, she did all right. And from what I remember, everyone was expecting Molly McCann to win. So I've gone with Talia Santos via decision, because usually women's flyweight fights end in decision. And
have you just changed your pick now?
In the last 5 minutes, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sticking to my guns. I'm going to stick to the De La Rosa decision. I think she's got that pedigree, that quality that shines through, and that experience more than anything. You've got Taylor Santos, who's 1-1 in the UFC. De La Rosa, she might not have a fantastic record, but she's got a lot more experience fighting in these ranks, and I prefer her for it. I think she's got the more, like you say, Jimbo, she's got that killer instinct in some of her previous fights, and I'm sticking to my guns. I'm not going to change my mind. Co-main event, Ovince St. Preux against Jamahal Hill. Jimbo Slice, do you want to talk us through your pick for the co-main?
I've stuck to my guns on this one. I was going to go with OSP, and I'm sticking with OSP. Really, the issue with Ovince St. Preux is what he's got going for him is his athleticism. He's strong, he's athletic. He's not the best kickboxer. He's not the best submission artist. He's brilliant at his Von Flue choke. He's strong. But he's very athletic, and that's really why you pick him. And I think he seems to be quite a nice bloke. He's very explosive, but him coming in overweight at the weigh-ins has worried me. So I'm not as confident about this pick as I was earlier. But I've gone with an OSP second round submission. He's the type of man who gets dominated for a round, and then whips out a cheeky Von Flue, or he whips out a Hail Mary submission and he wins by a submission in the second round. Probably wouldn't in the third. He probably had gassed by then. But I've, especially when he's being overweight, so I've gone with a second round submission.
This is an interesting fight because the line on the verdict does not reflect the bookies here. OSP is a dog in this fight now, whereas Jamal Hill is the favourite. I think that's probably going to be following the disastrous weigh-ins for OSP yesterday. OSP is one of these fighters that's never been touted for his cardio. He does tend to fade quite a lot in fights, and with him missing weight, you've got to question his ability. Is he in shape? Did he have a bit too much at Thanksgiving, and that's why he's missed weight? But for me, I think the undefeated Hill is going to come through it. It's going to be a breakout performance from him. It's going to be a knockout in the second round. KDiggy.
I had the exact same as you. I was back in the undefeated fighter Hill, but after having a quick think about it, just OSP's got so many miles in the tank that I think he'll survive. He'll be a survivor throughout the fight, and I think he'll make it to a decision, which he will eventually lose. With Hill, he's gone to decision and he's had knockouts. I think he's had 3 decisions and 4 knockouts, or vice versa. So I think this time it will be coming up against that veteran, that the veterans let us down last time when the veterans did well last time when Arlovsky fought. So I'm hoping that won't come to bite us in the ass again. But no, Jamal Hill decision.
It's interesting. So a bit of a split in the camps for this card so far, and I've just realised I actually missed out a fight on the verdict card because it's moved up the card. It was originally on prelims, it's been brought up, and that's Gabriel Benitez against Justin James. So for me, I remember Gabriel back in 2014 when he was on Tough Latin America. Kind of been there or thereabouts, never really done anything in the UFC, and I don't think he's going to do anything against James. I think James is going to get the knockout second round. Benitez isn't of a quality to fight in the UFC, in my opinion. I don't think he's good enough, and I think that's going to show with James getting a finish. Jimbo?
I am actually just checking what I've picked here. I believe I have actually gone with Gabriel Benitez.
Benitez decision.
Well, to be honest, I'm regretting picking that, but I'm going to stick with it. I think my original thought process was he's been in the UFC a while. He's got a bit of the high caliber experience. But yeah, I'm regretting picking it as you explained it more. But yeah, he's got the high quality experience. He's on a bit of a skid, but I'm just hoping he bounces back here.
KDiggy?
Yeah, I've not done too much with this one. I've not done too much research, but the guys at Verdict seem to be swaying towards Benitez, so I just decided to go that way as well and get a knockout in the second round. Big dog.
I think it's a good fight. I think it's an interesting fight. You know, you've got James, who's only had a couple of fights in UFC, you know, one win against Camacho, I think was a pretty nice knockout, and then losing his last fight via submission in the third round. I think if he can get out there and dispatch of Benitez early, it's got the potential to be quite a violent finish. But like I say, Benitez has been in the game a while. He's been in the UFC a while. He's never really excited me. And from memory, he was a bit of a dick on the Ultimate Fighter. So I'd rather him lose. And the main event, as we said earlier, a bit of a change at the last minute. Kevin Holland pulling out. Marvin Vettori upping the ante and getting up to the main event against Jack Hermansson. For me, this is a bizarre fight from the bookies. You know, earlier on this week, Hermansson was getting a very large dog for the fight. Massive underdog. He's still an underdog. Obviously, you've got Kevin Holland, who's quite long, and Hermansson has been preparing for a long fight or all camp. And this last minute change could scupper him significantly, but I think he's got that caliber and quality to his game now as Hermansson. Even though the other week I did say that he was probably the easiest win in the top 10 of the UFC, I don't really think we've seen enough from Vettori to kind of justify him being the favourite here. He's not really ever done a right lot to excite me. It's a fight that I think is exciting, but I think Hermansson will get that first round submission. I see it playing out very similar to a lot of Hermansson's most recent fights, getting taken down, eking out a cheeky sub and getting a nice tap in the first. KDiggy?
Yeah, I'm exactly the same as you. The same thinking I saw earlier this week that that he was an underdog, better than 2-1. So I stuck to some of my hard-earned cash on that. So hopefully that can come through and there'll be a celebration tonight. But we'll have to see. But I'm going to go Hermansen as well. I've gone a little bit different to yourself. I feel like Vittori's he's no slouch. He's good on the ground. So I'm not gonna put the expectation that he's going to get subbed in that first round. I'm gonna say that it's going to be a long, drawn out fight, and it's going to go to a decision, which Hermansen will get his hand raised at the end.
Jimbo, is Hermansen getting the sweep?
He is. I rate Jack Hermansen a bit more highly than the new big dog. I did say the other week as well, though, I think he panics under power punches. When he gets hit a bit hard, he panics, not when they're coming, not when he gets hit with them, when they're coming at him and he knows they're strong. It's a bit like how Volkan Ozdemir had brought that sense of aura, and then Jimmy Manuwa thought, if I get hit by this, I'm going out cold, and he got touched and he went out cold. Corey Anderson had it against, I feel like, just all his opponents every time he feels like, I've not got a great chin, and he gets touched and he goes down. I feel like Jack Hermansen has a bit of that fear as well. He fears being hit hard and going out, so he starts fighting really strange when he fights power punches. But really, I think this is his fight to lose. I've gone for a second round submission. I see it playing out, saying a lot of Jack Hermansen's over fights. Takes him down. He scrambles, he grabs an arm, he grabs a leg, he grabs a head. I especially love it when he goes for what's it called, the Joker choke, when he does that really nice guillotine that he throws out there. I thought if he's going to submit him, it's going to be an early round, less sweaty. But I feel like if this is going to decision, it really should be Jack. He went into 5 rounds when he fought. He did an excellent 5-round fight when he fought Jacare. Really, I just thought this was a fight between 2 people that should be in Wolfenstein as an enemy of BJ Blazkowicz, because they both look like failed Nazi super soldiers with the colour of the hair, the big arms.
What the fuck?
They do. I'm playing Wolfenstein. I was like, you know what? They look like they could be enemies in this.
We're going to get red flags on that one.
You can't say shit like that. I think all one viewers of this will be really disappointed with these, remarks.
Jimbo Slice is the villain.
I just think he looks like them. I didn't say they were. That's
scandalous, mate. You can't say shit like that. I think do you know what? The more I think about this fight, it's got potential to be quite good. I think Vittori's got the edge in the sense that he's been preparing, first for Omar Akhmedov and then for Jacare. He's been preparing for fighters that like to be on the ground, which I think could play in his favour. However, he's not been training for 5 rounds. Jack has got that experience in 5-round fights now. He had the one with Jacare, he had the one with Jared Cannonier. Obviously, last fight with KG was a 3-rounder, but he's got that experience. He's got that proven record that he can go for 5, whereas Vittori doesn't. But yeah, the sweep, I think it's Hermansen's fight. I think he's got more ways to win than Vittori does, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I'm just surprised how many people are against him on this one, including the bookies. And I follow a few Instagram pages that are like MMA picks, and they're going against him. They're going against Hermansen as well. So I think I'm ready to laugh at these people when I've got my money and when I get my XP.
Hopefully we all get a good result here. But anything that you'd like to add, gentlemen, before we call it?
I'd just like to say that I'm fully with both of you there. I really don't get why Vittori's the favourite. He's stepped in on very short notice, and Jack Hermansen is the proven man here. Marvin Vittori's biggest claim to fame is a loss. It's a loss to Israel Adesanya in a split decision.
And Israel Adesanya that hasn't really worked on his ground game so much. I think it's bizarre. It's not often I'm baffled by the bookies and the decisions that they come to, but I'm excited to see how that fight plays out. And do you know what? I'll retract my prior statement. This is actually an all right card when you break it down and have a proper look at the fights. There's some decent fights on here, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. But until next week.
All the best.
God bless.